are now recording. And this is for the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for February 9th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Okay, and I would like to present these minutes to be approved from April 12th, 2021, August 2nd, 2021, August 23rd, 2021, October 12th, 2021, and November 8th, 2021. And if everyone has reviewed them and they're good with them, if we could have a motion to approve them.
Should we open the meeting first?
I thought you just said you opened it, I'm sorry.
Okay. We hereby, good afternoon and welcome everyone. We hereby open the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting open for business on the 9th of February, 2022. And I will accept a motion for the 5 minutes.
I so move. Do we approve them?
Is there a second?
I did.
And probably move the second that the minutes from the last 5 meetings be accepted.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
You ready?
Yes, I am.
All right. We've got 2 cases on the agenda tonight. The first is by George Olin Hardy IV. It's a variance request. He has an existing piece of property, and he's requested and has gone through with the Planning Commission the conditional use permit process to allow a single-family home to be built in the Business General District. Okay? Seems a little odd, but up on North Main Street, if you're familiar, if you've gone up and looked at the property, that, believe it or not, that is zoned Business General. A conditional use permit was issued by the town council at their last council meeting. The question now arises is the setback, and that's what we're here tonight. What we typically do on a residential matter, because if you look at the Business General, and Jake brought it to my attention, and I want to clarify, in the business district, if you're abutting another business property, typically, if you look at the charts in section 14.6-4, I think it is, you're allowed to build side by side, like downtown, okay? But it also states in our ordinance that we follow the residential standards of the R3 district, okay? When we have a residential activity in the Business General District. So typically, a lot would be 80 feet wide, typical, a new lot. Now, I can tell you there's about 1,000 of them in Blackstone that are not 80 feet wide, including all the lots that we're talking about on Main Street here. But if you look at the West Blackstone plat, those are 25-foot wide lots. They're considered non-conforming, but the setbacks have been non-negotiable. We said if you've got 2 lots or 3 lots, we'd be either coming to Board of Zoning Appeals. 3 lots, you got to meet the full 15% setback is what we've been doing. And so in this particular case, the applicant is asking for a side setback variance to 8 feet, okay? Now, this lot is 50 feet wide, and you would say, well, that's 7.5 feet. But in this instance, we follow the residential standards of the R3 district, okay? And being that it's 50 feet, we bring it back to BZA. If you remember, we had 2 cases just like this last time we all got together. There were 2 50-foot lots that people wanted to build homes on. And so, needless to say, here we are, okay? And that's how we got ourselves here tonight. The applicant is here, is asking for a side setback of 8 feet. I can't say we set some standards because we took each case individually last time. If you remember, one had 1 setback and the other one was agreeable because the home next door was so close to the property line, you increased it on that side. But Mr. Hardy is here, and if you'd like to open the public hearing, I think it would be appropriate.
Based on what Mr. Bernardo just gave us, we hereby open the public for the comments.
But I think at the last meeting, I think it wasn't voted on for everybody, but you decided to do 12 foot on each lot. That was what the agreement was, right? Y'all
That-
were-
That's
y'all
correct.
wanted
We,
12 foot.
If you remember, we came up with it the last time on Luke Street. Remember those folks that had adjusted the size of that house? Even though it was a 50-foot, it was two 25-foot lots, okay, 50 foot wide. What the BZA did approve was 12 feet on each side, which is 15% of an 80-foot lot, which would be a new lot if it were to be developed. If you remember the 12 feet on each side. The other case was over on College, but I think you increased it to 16 feet on that one side near the house and then less on the other side. So,
So
you have a
what
quick.
was the less on the other side? So the standard is 15%? Is that what you're saying?
Standard's 15% of the 80-foot lot. A typical
If-
lot
80
frontage
by
needs to be
50,
80
so
foot,
what
so
would-
15% is 12 aside. The reason we scooted the one on College is because the house next to it was grandfathered in, and it was right on the property.
Literally
line.
on the property line. It was right there.
And the other side was a municipal alley, so we scooted it towards the alley to give the appearance of having bigger setbacks.
But both properties agreed to 12 foot on each side. It's like a 26-foot home with 12 feet on each side.
And the 12 feet isn't arbitrary. It is 15% of what a standard lot created today would require. If you were to do a subdivision in the R2 district or the R3 district, you typically would have to have an 80-foot wide lot if you were to create them, but we've got hundreds of them that are not compliant. They're non-conforming or grandfathered now, okay?
Would you like to say anything, Mr. Hardy?
Yes, sir. My time to talk.
Come on now.
Okay. I've had this lot about 18 years and didn't do anything really with it, and I decided here about 4 months ago I'd like to build a small dwelling. And I used to own a house right beside it. The house right beside it, I've got a plat here made by Todd Lenning. The house right beside it is 8.7 feet from the property line. And that's 519 North Main Street. And so I was hoping to be able to build this house 8 feet from the property line. It's probably gonna be a little less than that, because I typically do always add what us engineers say is a little room for error, but I'm requesting 8 feet based on the house that's right beside me. And I've talked to the gentleman that owns the house beside me. He's good with this. And so I would like to build the house 34 feet parallel to the road and then 24 feet deep. And so that's what I request. If I need to modify that, I would need to go deeper than 24 feet if I have to modify the other one. But my layout, got a draftsman that did a layout, and he says this 34 feet would work best. And so that's what I'm requesting. The lot right beside it, the house is 36 feet parallel to the road. So this is less than the one beside it, and within a half a foot. And if you look at generally in that neighborhood, there are some houses closer than that. I realize they're grandfathered in. I understand that. But this is what I'm requesting, and so therefore, I don't guess y'all know this, but I'm a state building inspector down at Richmond Capitol Square, and I don't deal with but one house, and that's the governor's mansion, and that's enough. But I looked in the residential building code, and they say 5 feet in the residential statewide building code is the minimum. So I'm asking for 8. So, have y'all got any questions of me?
It's hard for me to justify 8 because the gentleman that came to us on Luke Street was asking for, I believe it was 10 aside, and we had him change his floor plan. So it was really hard for me to justify 8 when we had another gentleman without anybody beside him go to a 26-foot wide house and 12-foot setbacks. That's just my thoughts on it. If anybody else has got anything.
Give myself away, but was I working here years ago when you built that house?
I didn't build that house.
You didn't build it, okay.
Gary DePuy built it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
He sold it to somebody, and then D. Dunkerson and I bought it. And then we sold it to George.
I went down there and looked at that property, facing it, my back to this main street. On the left side, it looks like what, maybe 6 feet to the property line. It doesn't even look like it's 6 feet to that property line.
Well, whatever it looks like, what it has to be, it's gotta be whatever's agreed upon tonight. It may appear different or look different. I will bring 2 points up that could create some consideration about what went on Luke Street. Luke Street didn't have any neighbors. Remember, it was in the woods, really wasn't another house next door. But if you guys, you may not know, but immediately adjacent to this property, the town approved a pretty significant apartment complex on the property right next door, on the opposite side. If you look at this plan, see this little brown notch? There's a gentleman named Gilbert Ruffin that approached the town 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and had an elaborate plan for some apartments to be built. Okay, he never went through with it, but the zoning was done. It was a 3-story apartment building. One was gonna be subgrade, and then there were 2 above grade. I've got the plan somewhere, it's still in my office, but, right adjacent to where he's talking about, there's already an apartment complex. Now, does that affect what you guys are saying or thinking about? Just heads up, but that was approved. And as far as the existing house going there, that's why I asked, well, did I approve the daggone thing? I don't know, but I guess or whoever was here at the time, the way they looked at it was, it's business general, okay? And 50 feet, and 15% of 50 feet, and
It's 7.5.
7.5 feet.
And by the way, if you do the math backwards, I had the survey, I paid Todd Lenning to do the survey, and he spotted it. They're not my measurements, they're a certified land surveyor. He put 8.8 feet, the edge of the house beside it from the property line. But tax records have got that house 36 feet wide. And then if you do the reverse math, that doesn't leave but 5 feet 4 inches on the other side of that house. So we got 5 feet 4 inches on one side of the existing house. We got 8.7 feet on the other side of the house. So I think a precedent has been set. And, you know, I can have my architect rework those plans, but probably instead of going 24 feet deep, I'm gonna wanna go 28, because it's just not economically feasible to me to build this real small house with these tiny bedrooms, and it's just not acceptable with the public anymore. People want bigger bedrooms, and you know, so that's what I'm really basing this on. I think I sent Philip the tax card of the house 519 then.
Do you have the measurements of the neighboring house off the frontage, sir? I know you said you had a plat up there. I didn't know if it had that measurement on it or not.
Yeah, the plat, I've got to be happy to share with you. This is an original one.
The house next door is 36 feet across the front according to the county tax assessment record, and it is 20 feet deep.
20 feet deep? Does it say how far up I was curious what the frontage was. I know that he's gonna
it's identical 50 feet, the lot right beside it's identical 50 feet.
I think that, I don't think the front setback is 35 feet on town right away.
So you do gain some with that house, next door being closer to the sidewalk or closer to the street there?
Well-
We've typically honored that, the neighboring house is set back off the front.
Our
For other
our
houses,
ordinance does specify a setback.
Mhm.
However, you can waive the setback if there's an existing grandfathered house that's closer to the street, so you can stay in line, so you're not building houses behind each other. We just did it on 10th Street. If the adjoining house is within 50 feet of the property line, it's in the ordinance. I mean, it's not just a policy or something. The ordinance states if there's an existing structure that may be non-conforming, non-compliant, within 50 feet of the property line, that residential owner is entitled to build on the same line, so you don't end up people looking at each other's back doors and front porch.
So you're gaining some length that way. You can build a deeper house because you can build it on the same plane as the,
Yeah, the way I scaled it using 24 feet, and this was, I got Mr. Lenning's plat. He set the corner pins, and then I went away and measured it. And the house next door is 33.7 feet from Main Street back. Now, if you use 24 feet deep, then I would have 29.38 feet in the backyard. If I use 28 feet, then I would go to 23 feet, 0.38 feet. And
You're required 25 in the rear yard.
yeah, and that's acceptable with me, if that's what y'all feel more comfortable with. I would agree to that. But I'd like to at least get 10 feet, because the neighbor's house is 8.7. But I'll honor whatever y'all say, you know, I understand. So,
Is something y'all can live with?
We need to come up with a standard,
Yeah, and that's the thing, because
come
we
up with
keep,
a standard.
Yeah,
I told you guys last time.
this is gonna keep coming up.
If you're meeting on a regular basis as BZA on the same matter over and over, and you're gonna get more and more and more of these on
and
50
that's
feet,
what's the issue.
you set your standard, and I could have told him it was 12 feet up front, he would have known that going in. In Nottaway County, Ronnie Rourke done it the same way for 100 years, right? You know, he's been there forever. In Nottaway County, in places, if you own 100 acres, but you only have a very narrow frontage that doesn't meet the frontage requirements of the county,
I just went through that on a house.
they won't let you build a house on 100 acres.
Went
If
through
you don't
that.
meet so the BZA is constantly meeting on those kind of things, and this 50-foot thing, we're gonna meet on more and more and more and more. I think the last time we talked, there was some interest in the BZA level to have fluidity, so you could move them and change them like you guys did over on College. So, but typically, if you're meeting on the same matter regularly, the Board of Zoning Appeals will create a standard, and that way people will know it is 12 feet, 10 feet, whatever.
So, Mr. Hardy, at the last meeting, they had 2 requests with 50-foot lots, and they did not approve them to extend it out. So what they approved was a 26-foot house, and it had 12-foot setbacks on each side. So
That was
that's
the one
what
on
they,
Luke Street.
that was both of them.
well, they both had 24
They both
total.
had, yeah, one had 7.5 and one
Right,
had 16.
24 total.
But it was, 24 total, so I think
But
that
they
that's,
didn't have a house right next door that was built 8.7 and 5.4 either.
It had a house next door that was built tighter than that.
Okay.
The one on College Avenue, the adjoining house, was the same family, but it's right on the property line. So
Yeah, so-
you still had 24 total feet.
Right.
It's set in total setback, but I think it was 16 on one side and
16.5 on one, 7.5 on the other.
While I like the idea of a standard, I don't like the idea of just creating a blanket standard to where you can, like the situation on College where somebody can come in and build a house that close to it. I think while I think 12 or 24 foot in total would be a good verbal standard, I just don't know about putting it in writing. Just making sure it fits the condition. So in my view, for your standards, I would believe 12 and 12 would be appropriate. You have a 50-foot lot, even though you have a house tighter to one side, I don't think you need to shift over away from it. I believe that it's appropriate there, but it's hard for me to approve 8 or 10 when, again, I had a gentleman, or we voted on to have a gentleman reduce his house size by 2 foot on each side to be approved.
And I think if we were to do that, it's just gonna keep coming. So,
Like I said, this whole West Blackstone, basically where my hand is, Fall Street, Luke Street, you look at that on subdivision, it's all 25-foot lots. And so you'll probably see more of these, and
But I
all
think
of
it
these are 50-foot lots in this little section of town.
yeah, so, and because that is the standard and that is 25 over there, and 50 is the standard over there with the 12-foot, I mean, I don't think we can mix the two, because I think we're gonna get into what we're seeing now, the repeated requests coming before us for that.
I think the general consensus from the panel, the board, is that you'd like to work out something, be it 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet. What is it that is a consensus? Is there a consensus among the members of the BZA?
I believe in 12 because we told the other gentleman 12.
12.
And I know that's
So
not what you're asking
Does
for.
that allow me to go back 4 feet to the footprint of my house?
The rear setback's 25 foot, correct?
Rear setback is 25 feet.
What did you say, his lot was 80 feet?
It's 85 feet or something like that.
No, it wasn't quite,
87 on one side, 84 on the other.
less than that. 87,
87 feet on that side and then 84, so it's not a perfect rectangle square. A little short on one side.
So does he have room to go back? If he does a 26-foot wood house, does he have room to go back further than?
26 foot wide, but how deep would you then have to make the house?
I think I'd have to do the house,
20,
28.
28 feet.
28 deep?
28.
Mhm.
You said you were 33, the house next door is 33 foot off?
The house next door, according to tax records, is 36 feet wide across the front.
Yeah, it's not 35 off the setback. In the front setback, I don't know what it is, but it ain't 35. If you go over and look at that thing, the town right of way probably goes well behind that curb gutter. I bet you he's no more than 20, 25 feet off the town
From
right
that
of way.
town, what is that, at 4 feet? Is it 4 feet from that?
So do the math, you get 28 feet,
34, no, I'm sorry.
28 feet of house, you get 25 feet of setback in the back, with that, 53 feet, is that right? That means there'd be another 30 plus feet in the front. So I think you got room to put it in there, especially when he's gonna make it line up, and I don't think the adjacent house is 35 feet back, I really don't think it's off the right of way 35 feet.
So to answer your question, I think you do have room to go with a longer house. Like I said, it's just the 25 foot off the back, and then you can put it as close as the house next to you. I believe that leaves you
In
a
line with the
significant
house
amount,
next
in
door?
line with the
And the
house
front.
next to you
And
in
the
the
front
front.
in line with the house next to.
So I believe that gives you plenty of space,
Okay.
if you can live with 12.
That's what y'all's rule gonna be, that's what I always abide by the rules in life.
And I can confirm Olin always abides by the rules.
So that would be a 26-foot house.
Well, I don't think we have to determine the size of the house, that's gonna be Olin's baby, but
Yeah,
the setback would be 12 feet, would be the standard on
12 feet on the side.
each side. Is that pleasing to all? Sally,
Yes, that'll be.
are you there? or you-
Well, my thought is, in dealing with these individually, the whole purpose is to deal with them individually and not have to make it identical to what we ruled on Luke Street.
That's a good point, yeah, I get it. I think there's some concerns about were you fair to those folks and being more fair to Olin. I think
Certainly.
there are some differences with the apartments next door on one side and the house being within 8 feet. You're right, you're wanting to consider each one individually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could tell all the 12 feet right off the bat, and that'll save us some meeting.
Yeah, well, I was hoping that
Sure, yeah.
we'd meet some kind of medium between, I asked for 8. I was hoping y'all would allow me to get 10. That is double the building code, and it's still a lot more than the house next door. And so that's what I would like to amend it, from 8 feet to 10 feet on the sides. And that would help me greatly. And I'm gonna probably go on and build it if I get that. And I'm probably gonna think about it if I don't get it. I'm just gonna tell you up front. I'm that kind of a man, you know. I want my rooms big enough that somebody doesn't walk in there and say, I'd have to stand up to sleep in this bedroom, you know. And so I want my rooms big enough for that. Be a nice sized bedroom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We have, the town has built shotgun houses before because of the narrowness of lots. We did one on Church Street not too terribly long ago,
Mhm.
3 or 4 years ago. But our standard house that we build in these housing programs and weatherization and all that stuff is more akin to what's already there because it's less expensive. You know, it's much smaller. You get the same square footage, but you bring it in, the style and format we choose is a less expensive one. But we have built shotguns when the lot dictated it. I think those folks down on Church Street had 25 feet with an existing house, and so we built it to them, the footprint of the existing house, and then tore down the old house, so that was a tight one. Is there a motion from anybody?
Shall we close the public hearing?
You wanna close the
Okay,
public hearing?
now hereby close the public hearing. And can I get a motion on the, so you're gonna have a 32-foot setback. And
He's requested an 8, I think, based on what we did on Loop Street, that was 12, and that's based on 15% of an 80-foot lot. And then I think Owen compromised and said he would make 10 feet work. I think where we're at. If you look at staff, I don't have a problem with it. I agree, the 12 feet works nicely, but the adjacent house is 8.5 feet or 8 7 inches, 8.7 inches. As far as fire code and that sort of thing, what he said, he knew the building code, he forgets more about it than I know about it, but, as far as
30 years.
creating a problem for the town, I don't see it creating.
but what I would like to prevent is, down the road, when we make the decision, and one builder come in and say, oh, on February, you made a decision for this, but in September of the previous year, you
The
made
way
a
to solve that
decision.
is create a standard, write it down, and then your staff can tell folks like Owen, it's 12 feet. Well, you gotta, going into it, you're gonna have to know that. Because if you keep on meeting on these things, no offense, and I know your opinion on it, but if you keep on meeting, sooner or later, some poor guy on Loop Street's gonna come back in and sit down.
Yeah,
Why'd you make me do this? And
Yeah.
and
it's coming.
not like it. So if you set a standard, write it down, and keep you from having to go to meetings all the time. The staff can tell somebody on a 50-foot non-conforming lot, it's gonna be 12 feet. You gotta meet the setback as if it were an 80-foot lot.
But I think like with Mr. Allman's opinion, it worked out by meeting for the Utley property, cause you were able to
You were
adjust
able to
it.
make those adjustments, and so that was
I
good.
think that was like your point for that, you know, that we were able to adjust it with that one, but.
So that way, you know, you don't have a house 2 foot off the other one.
Yep.
Because of old grandfather clauses, but, again, out of respect to the gentleman on Luke Street, I'm pretty firm at 12, but doesn't mean y'all can't disagree with me.
Is there a motion? Everybody got a motion? We gotta move forward, we got another meeting.
That's true.
The floor is open for a motion.
I make a motion to approve 12-foot setbacks for the property.
Is there a second?
Second.
to the motion? You second? Monica? Second?
Monica second, okay.
Properly moved and second.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries. None opposed.
Okay. Thank y'all for your time.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
All right, item number 2. And I really do, Ed and I have to take off here a little bit, but I want to present this one initially. Piece of property in Pickett Court. And it's undeveloped, it's a single piece of property. And if you're familiar with Pickett Court, it's at the head of Pickett Court. If you know, it's one way, and there's some vacant areas there at the end of Pickett Court. We have an application
Not
from
much
Brian Wright Farms. Mr. Wright is here to present if there's any questions. Currently, in order to split these lots, again, this lot is big enough by current standards. It's 12,800 square feet approximately. Okay, I know you guys had said about 14. We had the surveyor, our surveyor actually put it on AutoCAD, and it came back about 12,800 square feet. Typically, a new lot in that district will be 10,000 square feet. Okay, however, in Pickett Court, the average lot is about 6,500 feet. They're just smaller than what the new standard is. His request is to take this one parcel of 12,800 square feet and divide it in half so he could have 2 parcels of 6,400 square feet each, which is, there's some parcels where Miss Lax lives that are larger, but the ones that are on that front on the street at a 90-degree angle, those are for the most part about 6,400 square feet. It's close to being in line to what the existing is. Now, there are some that are in the radius that are bigger, but the majority of them are about the same exact size as he's asking for. Okay, so if you have any questions for me, but in order to have the 2 lots, he has to have a variance down on the size, even though all the adjacent. And I don't know why this particular lot wasn't divided up years ago. If you look at the old plat, it says for recreation or something like that. I don't remember. Park. So right now it's about 12,800 square feet. He could build a single-family home. His request is to create 2 lots comparable to what's already there, so he could build 2 single-family homes. He wouldn't have enough, if anybody was questioning it, he wouldn't have enough square footage to build duplexes or anything like that. It'd have to be a single-family structure.
So that alley was still split to 2.
That alley is not a deeded right-of-way. There's an easement across it, and it would have to be preserved, okay? But it's not a platted alley, okay? It's an alley by function, but it's more by easement. It's been used by the power companies, and it's been used by the town to pick up trash, and it would have to stay. But there's not a section of fee simple owned property that runs through the middle of these lots. If you look at the plat, we've got a copy. We're more than happy to share a copy with you. But it's really one big piece of property that happens to have an easement that runs through the middle of it. But the difference between easement and fee simple is easement is just the right to use. Yeah. Okay. The property still belongs in fee simple ownership to the property owner.
There's no alley behind my house.
Correct.
All the way down.
That is correct.
That's because my grandpa did not want the alley, and the people agreed we didn't come down.
If you look at it, I think there were several moves when back in the 50s when people petitioned town council with a petition and said that they wanted their trash to be picked up behind their house instead of in front of their house. And that's when the alleys actually came into play, so the town could get back there and get the trash in 1957 or whenever it was. But there's a petition we found in our archives where people had asked to do that, and that's what created these alleys. They were not platted originally. They were granted by the property owners to allow garbage trucks, and then subsequently I think power company has come through there, and town may even have some water and sewer through there. We do have some water and sewer easements. They're 10-foot easements that are shown. If you look, that alley that terminates before it gets to your house on that side, I think there's some utility easements included in there. Okay.
So Brian and April, in all actuality, own the alley.
They own the alley.
The entrance part of the alley.
However, there is an easement across their property that are used by, and gosh, it's used by the town certainly.
So the
for
owner
picking
cannot
up
close that.
rubbish, huh?
The owner cannot close.
I don't think he can close it now. I think it would, unless he found a legal maneuver.
If he wanted to fence it in.
I don't think he can. I think it's been openly and commonly used in public view for so long, but ultimately, I guess the judges have to resolve that kind of thing. But I've seen it go both ways. But we do not own the alley. We own the rights to use the alley as an easement through there.
So this is our fancy drawing here that they're looking at. So you're looking at where the alley is, a house here and then a house there. Correct.
On either side of the alley.
On
Is the
both
proposal.
sides of the alley. So
But our
that's what,
proposal isn't to build, our proposal is just to split that into,
okay.
into two
I
lots.
just wanna have 2 lots
Yeah, we
Okay.
just want 2 lots.
that you could build on.
I was asked earlier what the plan was, and truly Brian and April haven't given me their intentions. There's no house plan, there's no what it looks like. We're here tonight not to say we like the house or not, because I haven't seen that, nor has it been offered by the property owner. It's just to divide it in two, and by today's standards, he would need 20,000 square feet to split it in half, and he's got 12,800.
Do y'all have anything to say of reference to this property? It's open for,
I think he said it, unless you have any questions.
So is the
We cut our
intent,
trees down, by the way. Did we cut our trees down, or did we get y'all's trees? Cause they
I
were
was
rotten to
wondering if
death.
I
trees
don't know who
now.
got the tree, we wondered.
The one that's hanging over the curb line,
Yeah,
that was definitively on the town property.
I got
The other one may have been a little bad because it's a 50-foot right-of-way, and if that road is centered on the 50-foot right-of-way, you can take a tape measure from the center of the pavement, and come back 25 feet, and I think you'll find the stumps are,
We
Still
will wonder
within the
what
right.
happened to it.
Yeah.
Mystery solved.
it got to me, I heard the concerns, but, in all honesty, we had an arborist look at the trees, and the big one was rotten, terrible.
It was fine, we just didn't know what happened to it, so.
There was a request, I think Christine Hansberg brought it to us,
Yeah.
and, I think some of the residents in the neighborhood had asked if the trees come down, and, go bid it out and got the trees down.
We thought somebody just got cold.
We need some fireworks.
Need fire.
Our tree down, we didn't know.
There was a big willow oak tree on the corner of the property.
do we have anyone to speak against this?
No, until I know what he's gonna do with the property, I don't have anything to say right now.
Well, the only thing I can tell you, the only thing he can do is single-family home.
Okay, that's one thing I wanted to
That's
know.
definitive. He does not have enough square footage for a duplex or a triplex or anything. It has to be single-family
Okay.
based on the square footage.
Regardless, and regardless of what's decided with the lots, you still have to conform to the other zoning rules of the district, correct? You'd still have to comply to all the
Still got
setback rules
front
and all that
setbacks,
stuff.
rear setbacks, all that kind of
And
stuff.
it would meet all that for the standard house, the size of the other houses, right?
I think that would be logical,
Yeah.
but you still have to follow the setbacks as required. Remember, you got a 50-foot setback, or a 50-foot, adjacent house. You can stay as close to the right-of-way as an adjacent house, okay? That's within 50 feet of your property line. We talked a little bit about that on the last case. Okay? You got a pie-shaped lot, or potentially 2 pie-shaped lots, so we're gonna have to work out the rear setback and figure out how best to do that, which is 25 feet, okay? So, you just got an oddball lot, and you may just have to create a house, or if you build a house or you sell it, they're gonna have to follow those setbacks,
That's what, that was.
which is 15% of your frontage. You got a lot of frontage. If you look on that radius, and that arc, you've got plenty of frontage, so the 15% setback would be pretty wide. I think you can do that. Your rear setback, the only one may be a little tricky for you, because it's a pie.
So if this is split and then they sell it or they decide to build something, do they have to come back to the BZA
Depending on what side of the house you get.
for the size of the house?
If you
They
can
have to still come
Get the
back.
house to fit on there, you don't have to come back. I don't think you have a problem in the front, I don't think you have a problem on the side, I think the rear setback would be the one that's a little tricky. 25 feet off of that, we gotta determine what's the rear, and I assume it would be that back line, which also serves as your sideline, so we just gotta figure it out. But it depends on the size of the house. Olin, he didn't have to come tonight, but the size of the house dictated that he needed to be here, so you just gotta work on it. We're not gonna do pie-shaped lots, freak us out, so, square lots are easy, rectangular lots are hard.
Odd shape.
So, I will
But
entertain.
I will include, other than Miss Lax and those folks that are in the radiuses who have bigger lots, the standard lot is about 64. It's just about the same exact size as the majority of the lots in Pickett Court that are rectangular or at 90-degree angles. Okay? Excuse me. I apologize, I gotta go to another meeting at the courthouse, and I really don't wanna go to it, but,
Do y'all have any more questions for him? Cause
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
gotta go. I really don't wanna go to this. I'll let you go in my stead if you'd like.
You would not
Remember,
want
you're
that.
being
In the
recorded.
paper.
You wouldn't want
You're
that.
still being recorded
I
right
know.
now. The video is still on.
I didn't say anything to it.
Busted.
Bye.
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all good on this?
Yeah.
You got what
Yeah.
you need?
So,
Did we close public hearing?
Huh?
Did we
We
close
good.
the public hearing? Or close?
Did
the-
y'all have any more y'all wanted to add? You good? Ms. Lax, you good?
So, I do have a question.
Okay, hold on.
I have a question. So, in splitting it, is the intentions at some point in time maybe to sell it?
Yes,
Okay.
if possible.
And they would know, I mean, whoever is buying it would know how big of a house they could put on there?
Limitations they would have within the lot, I guess if somebody wanted to buy it, they would have to, we would have to make them aware of what the rules are, they would have to come to you all, or, depending on the size of the house, but, and that might deter buyers, it might not, I don't really know, we hadn't thought that far, we just thought, it really came up because of the grass, because it's two separate lots, and the house that's beside, the rental house, which we don't own, is beside one of the lots, and that renter used to cut that grass because it's like a nice yard for them, but now the new renter doesn't cut. So then we have to pay somebody to go over there and cut it, cause the grass gets too tall and it's, so it kinda came up from that, we were like, well, we'll just sell this lot and not mess with this grass, but we couldn't sell that lot because it's hooked to the other lot. Does
And
that make sense?
they wouldn't buy it as one? Like whoever's buying it couldn't buy it, the whole thing?
That'd
The
be-
12?
It's a rental house.
That would be nice though.
And y'all don't own the rental that you're talking about, or you do own
Not
it?
the one that doesn't cut the grass.
Right,
We have
okay.
a rental house, so it's kinda like in that circle. So we have this rental house, and then there's a nice lot beside it, the alley, another empty lot, which is ours, and then a rental house that's not ours. So like at the end of the U, we have, so the alley splits them, and this one over here with the house that isn't ours is the problem, but we can't sell that one. Like, we could sell it to whoever owns that house, but we can't sell it because we don't wanna sell the lot that's next to ours. Like, our rental house is nice because it's a big yard. Well, we can't sell this lot over here because it's really connected to this one. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's why we thought, well, we'll just split it and then just have 3 separate lots. One of them happens to have a house on it.
Makes sense, yeah.
So do you make a recommendation that they come back for the, if you split it, then they come back for the size of the house?
Yeah, they'll have to. I mean, I think whatever we vote on tonight, I mean, unless somebody
just to
figures out a way
split
to put a house, if somehow they figure out a way to put a house that doesn't go against any of the zoning rules, they could build it, but,
Yeah.
I mean, really, all you're asking to do is split the lot, and that's all we're really voting on, from what I understand.
Alright, so then I need to come up with what size house that you could put there then.
If you end up wanting to be the one to build on it, if you sell it, I believe it's up to the buyer to figure that out, but.
But it would be best, even in, just good faith
Tell
of
him.
selling it, so that upfront, the person would know this is what you can build on this property.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's in good faith, but,
Sure.
It's not, not
Yeah.
necessary, don't have to have.
And like he was saying, if y'all can figure out a way to build it without, and meeting all the setbacks, then you don't have to come back here. But if you needed a little more room, like Philip said, maybe in the back, then you would have to come here to
Yeah.
get a variance, so.
I don't-
Personally, I really don't want to build on it, whoever owns 32, be perfect if they would just buy it.
Maybe
and
they
have a
would buy
bigger
that
yard,
lot.
Yeah.
That's our whole issue, really.
But
And
maybe
then you
that
could
can
just
happen
sell the
now.
other lot,
Yeah.
so they could buy that portion to go
Sure.
with them.
Right,
So their
Okay.
yard would be bigger for their house.
that would be
Right.
fine with us.
Great.
And then the other one could be built on if somebody chose to.
Or it could make y'all's other property with the big lot, with the big yard.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's what he's got,
Our house is
yeah.
33, and they use that half of the lot right now, and it just makes it a nice place because they have an extra big yard. Well, 32 could have an extra big yard too, but,
You couldn't sell, you'd have to sell the whole thing to them in order to,
right, unless y'all let us, yes,
See?
that's why I need to split it.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
Absolutely.
people on 30,
Two.
what is that, Wanda?
I
32.
To cut
plan
the
on it.
grass?
We
Oh,
haven't yet,
yeah.
because, oh, yeah,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have.
Oh, and they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And Brian Wright doesn't wanna get my, grass letters in the summer. Submit my grass cutting letters.
That's true.
Alright, do you wanna close the public hearing?
So I hereby close the public hearing.
Are there any more questions?
Any more questions,
Any more
comments,
concerns?
criticism? So, entertain a motion. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to split the lots as presented.
I'll second.
Been properly moved and second, that the lots will be split. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Alright,
No names.
fabulous.
Alright, thank y'all.
Thank y'all very much.
Thanks.
All right.
Do y'all have anything else?
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you, Chick.
So would you like to adjourn? It
I
is
hereby
7:16.
close the BZA meeting for the 9th of February 2022.
Yep.